is India's prime actress, acclaimed and honored the world over for her powerful talent. He is India's ace scriptwriter, prolific poet and lyricist, who often challenges ordinary thought. Both stars, they're also husband and wife, and together they produce an indefinable alchemy of talent and intellect. In their first talk together for television, I'm delighted to have as my guests the diva and the poet, Shabana Azmi and Javed Akhtar.
The world is rushing by so fast. Let's press the pause and make it last.
First, let me thank you so much, Shabana, for coming for this interview, this talk.
I am doing it because you're a friend and because I've seen your previous work and enjoyed it very much. And so I've come here because I'm going to enjoy the experience myself.
Thank you. I am not in the habit of eulogizing, but I think you are India's finest actress. And I agree with Aparna, among the 5 best in the world.
My God, my God, I don't know what to say to that.
How do you evaluate yourself as an actress?
I'm not terribly impressed with myself as an actor because I think that the amount of tools I have in my arsenal to be called an actor are just enough to, like a writer needs the alphabets to be called a writer. Whatever I have is just enough to qualify as an actor, but as a great actor, certainly not. I think I have moments which are inspired and are very truthful. There are moments which are very honest, very heartrending, but a lot of times it's also extremely mediocre and incompetent work.
Strange standards for judging your performances.
Somebody who plays a definitive Othello can be a disastrous Hamlet, and then what do you say? Okay. Is he a good actor or not? So I don't think acting can be judged by that way, but one of the yardsticks one could use is that of versatility, I think. The one area in which I have been lacking, unfortunately much more because those parts haven't come my way, not because I haven't dared do them, is real full-blooded comedies.
Comedy, I thought so. Well, this is another thing, one gets slotted so quickly into this industry, and then it sort of cuts off all your other chances for doing other things. Do you feel any frustration for this?
In fact, I feel very grateful in a sense because, you know, I always say that my career is about being at the right time, at the right place. I came at the same time that the parallel cinema movement happened, and these parts became available to me. Had that not happened, I mean, I could have had talent and it would have been a closely guarded secret and nobody would have known that I had the talent.
Is acting an emotional necessity for you now?
Difficult question to answer because I can have an equally cathartic experience watching a slum dweller trying to save her home from being ravaged during the monsoons and the way the municipal corporation comes and just tears it down. And I can have much the same kind of reaction from watching that rather than having to enact it actually in front of the
studios. Could you do without acting?
For a long time, I thought that I could do without acting. For a long time. Then, when roles started coming my way again, I was rather pleased that they came on my terms. You know, plus 40 and yet people are willing to give you the main protagonist's part. And that's why the roles, if they're complex and they're interesting, are something that I would like to consider, sure. You know, and an actor is an actor is an actor. I think that even if from today I stopped acting, supposing every director in the world decided that they're never going to cast me again ever, even so I'll still remain an actor. I'll remain an out-of-work actor, but I'll still remain an actor.
When you perform, you have to unlock certain hidden interiors. You have to open old wounds to an extent. What does it do to you emotionally?
It ravages you. It ravages you. I also think it makes demands on the family which are too great because, you know, we live in a profession in which it's sort of taken for granted that you as a director can say emotion number 39 bahar lao, and then I give the emotion number 39 and then go back to being my jovial self, and as if no residue of that emotion is going to be left behind. Now that doesn't happen. Can you imagine? I've gone home completely drained. Javed has just come home after he's written a poem which has drained him completely, and these two completely dead people arrive home. Can you imagine what must happen and the kind of demands that are made from the family?
Do you find it as easy showing your emotions in real life as you do on screen?
No. I do not show my emotions except for anger. I get angry quite easily, but I don't cry so easily in real life at all.
Why?
I don't know. I think it's a private thing, possibly.
So you have difficulty expressing your emotions in real life. That's why, Shabana, you need to act.
Yes and no. Maybe. I don't know.
Javed, I've savored your poetry and your lyrics, and I think it's a treat to spend an evening and share your thoughts.
Thank you.
You have said that everything in your life is your experience, even your imagination. So can I take you back to the beginning, to your childhood days? Was your childhood a time that you like to remember?
It reminds me of Woody Allen. Woody Allen was asked once, did you have a happy childhood? He said, no, a normal one. So one is either fond of his childhood memory or one is not. I am, yeah.
But you've also said that you had a stressful relationship with your father, Shabana Akhtar, the poet. It was laden with ego problems.
My father had once written an autograph book. It's a Persian line, I'll translate it. Har kas ke shud sahab nazar deene buzurgan khush na kard. It's a line from a very famous Persian poet, Sadi. It means anyone who is a person of sight and intelligence never pleases his elders. So I took this very seriously.
No, now, but seriously, what was at the root of the problems you faced?
I suppose
now looking
father
back,
and son always have a kind of a paradoxical relationship. They love each other, but somewhere they are men, and somewhere they are competing. I mean, that is what Sakati says. Then there is always a kind of a generation gap and a lack of communication between father and son, but in my case it was rather enhanced because I hardly lived with him. I think if a child is not with the father or with the parents, the child resents. I mean, the child is never sensible enough to understand the circumstances.
You feel cheated in a way.
Even if your parents die in your childhood, you don't forgive them for that.
You're right.
Leave aside living away.
But why did you refuse to write poetry while he was alive?
Again, I would say perhaps that was the part of my resentment. Or at the same time, I shouldn't say only resentment, maybe I was scared that I won't be good enough because I knew what is good poetry.
You say that you came to terms with your father only after his death.
Yeah.
But there was no opposition left after his death
true.
anyway.
That's true. Sometimes I feel that I should have said this to him, or I could have mended this relationship, or we could communicate after a while, and so on. But I'm quite sure that if he would have been alive today, it wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. It's very strange. I'm feeling this, and I realize it only because he isn't there.
But I'm curious, you held back from writing poetry for 34 years. You might even have wanted to, but you didn't. So there was a reservoir inside you, which must have been just opened like a dam
That's true.
Doesn't it?
That's true.
So when it did open, what was the first thing that you wrote about?
The first long poem that I wrote about was Bhook. It was about hunger. And I wrote a poem from the point of view of a hungry person.
I see, okay. Tell me, what part does Shabana play in your writings? Is she a muse or a critic or a mirror?
I think she's a ruthless critic.
Ruthless critic.
If she appreciates something, I mean, it's a great compliment because she doesn't do it very often. And it has to be very good.
Two creative people living together, one would imagine it to be more difficult. And as you said yourself, you come home from work, both drained. So who provides the coffee and the sustenance at the end of the day?
We have a staff.
It's not that.
You know what I mean?
It's more, at one level, it's more difficult. And on the other, you also understand because you appreciate each other's work. But when you're in the same profession, I think there are little times when you recognize that space has to be given. Leave the person alone. I'm always encroaching on his space. I mean, he's writing, and I'll come in and ask some foolish question and go
break
away.
His thoughts.
Break his thought. My mother thinks it's sacrilege the way I invade his space all the time.
He doesn't invade yours?
Not at all. Not at all.
The way I see it, Shabana, you know, your life seems to be, as we were talking again, filled with roles. Isn't it difficult to prioritize then?
Well, at one point I did try to become a superwoman, and I remember one day just before I was leaving for shooting, I sat down and I started literally bawling and started crying, and Javed says, "What's with you?" And I said, "You know, I've been trying to change those curtains for the last 6 months and I haven't had the time to go into town and change those curtains." And he said, "So why must you cry about that?" And I said, "But that's not important to you. This is important to me."
Yeah.
So he says, "Well, then just learn to prioritize. You know, you're not going to be able to do everything perfectly, but some things must matter more than the others, and start delegating responsibility, and then it'll be done." And it did happen. Another great piece of wisdom which I got from Javed again was about stop apologizing for being successful. Stop guilty about being successful.
Did you feel guilt?
Before he told me, I hadn't even thought about it, and then he pointed out many instances in which he said, "Shabana, women are so unused to be successful in their own right that it's almost as if they create a kind of world around them where they apologize to their parents, to their brothers, to their children, to their husband,
and try and
overcompensate and say, oh, I might be successful outside, but here I'm your mom and I must get you your McDonald's burger if that's what you want, you know, and I must get your clothes ironed and things like that, you know." And he sat me down and he actually pointed it out to me, and I was amazed that I was falling prey to that as well, you know.
So are there any defined roles in your marriage?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. I mean, he doesn't expect me to sew his buttons and pack his bags, and I don't expect him to do the plumbing or any such thing. I mean, we really, I think we're friends before we are husband and wife.
Despite the closeness which is apparent, every marriage has a secret treaty, you know, a kind of line on the sand which you don't cross, you know, subjects or something about you that is not negotiable. Are there any areas that you keep entirely to yourself that you're not ready to share, either of you?
But we're not about to confess it in front of television.
I had a feeling.
May I answer the question? Anything that we hide from each other,
You're going to hide from us?
Tell somebody else.
Okay, are there areas?
You see, yes. Because one is married to somebody, it doesn't mean that that person loses all the right to privacy. But I don't think we open each other's letters.
Well, rightly so. That's a civilized way of
it's so
doing it.
simple.
Tell me, is Honey's husband very different to Shabana's husband?
Must be, I hope so. So, I mean, in 20 years, if I have not improved, I'm in trouble.
important do you think that marriage is for a working, self-sufficient, financially independent woman?
My case is different because I haven't had children. Had I had children, I'm sure that I would have moved in a different direction. Not being able to have children, in a sense, made the choices much easier because I could give so much more of my time.
Yes.
Because I think motherhood is a very,
Demanding.
very, very demanding. Very
But
demanding
has this been a major disappointment?
I'm amazed at the fact that it isn't, because in the beginning I didn't believe that I wouldn't be a mother. I was so sure that I was so special and so privileged, and of course this was my God-given right. And yet I was amazed at how easily I accepted once I realized that I couldn't have kids. I didn't let it linger over and make me unhappy. I just picked up my bags and carried on from there, and was very grateful for many other things that I could do.
You didn't think of adopting a child?
I never wanted to adopt a child, no.
Why?
Well, because I'm very friendly with Javed's kids, Zoya and
Okay,
Farhan,
so that
and
need
they're
was fulfilled.
Yes, and they've grown up, and they're at a time where I don't have to change their nappies or worry about their malaria, and they're bright children with whom I exchange ideas, and it's wonderful to have them at this age when they fight back with you, and you can see new ideas germinating in them as they are having a conversation with you. That's an age group I like very, very much.
Was there ever any resistance on their part?
They were too little.
They were too little.
They're very young, very young.
Are you as romantic in real life as you are in your poetry?
I think Shabana should answer that.
Shabana, you answer that.
Never.
What do you mean never? He's not romantic?
Never, not at all. He's too busy being my best buddy to be romantic.
That's also nice, but one needs a bit of romance, Javed.
Well, I write poetry.
Actually, you tell me, when was the first moment when you knew you loved her?
Much before I really told it to myself totally. I think I was extremely fascinated by her. I don't know why, but I was. I mean, when I didn't know her much, then too she used to attract me. And there was something about her that was always fascinating. So it's very difficult for me to decide what was the precise moment when I fell in love with her. I can't think of a time when I knew this name or knew the person, even remotely, and I was not attracted to her.
Okay.
I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that we have such similar backgrounds that friends of ours say that yours is the ideal couple that should have had an arranged marriage.
For sure.
You know, because of the kind of similarity in backgrounds, people would say, ye dono ek dusre ke liye bane hue hain.
Yes.
And that's how it should have happened.
What about you?
actually.
When did you realize that?
Quite soon after I got to know him. First, he made me laugh a lot. I mean, I used to keep laughing all the time. I enjoyed his company. I find him very stimulating. I find him one of the most intelligent men I've met. So I enjoy his company very, 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 very much. And that, I think, led to love.
Who would you say is more dependent on each other?
I am aware of my dependence. I'm not aware of her emotional dependence.
You're not?
You can't be, not totally.
What do you feel, Shabana? Do you agree with this?
No, I think patli gali se nikal rahe hain yahan se dekhe.
I think normally, with your permission, we pretend to be totally self-sufficient people, both of us.
Yeah.
But the moment, whether I'm under any emotional stress or she's under any emotional stress, we really need each other. And then all this facade of self-sufficiency goes away, and then we run for the help. But otherwise, we pretend that we are very self-sufficient people and we are doing fine.
What would make you feel betrayed by Shabana?
I don't think in terms of good and bad, or moral and immoral. Decent and indecent, that's important.
That's important.
If I feel that, with a very big if, because I know it won't happen, so if I feel that she has done something indecent to me, ugly to me, then I'll feel betrayed.
What about you, Shabana?
It seems almost a naive thing to say, but I don't think Javed will betray me. I have complete faith in that. And it's a strange thing. It's been built over the years because, I mean, we had a contentious relationship, and people said that he is going to betray you, and it's gone through all those trials of fire. And today I feel that he won't betray me. I just feel it. There's nothing else I can say about it.
But betrayal also depends a lot, you see, on the expectation level.
If I were to assess my relationship with Javed, both of us give each other a lot of space. And yet, if there is the slightest sense of danger that I feel, I always have this image of Javed coming up like a cobra, like a nag, and standing right in front of me, and I feel completely protected. And it has had time and over again it's happened.
Okay, what irritates you most about him?
Many things. He leaves the bathroom looking like a tornado has walked out of it. I mean, it's impossible. It's very bad. बहुत गुस्सा आता है मुझे.
It's not true.
Not true. You leave the bathroom looking nice.
Like a bathroom.
Like a bathroom. What is a bathroom supposed to look like?
She's exaggerating.
Then you tell me.
I'll tell you.
She loses her keys.
She loses her keys. I mean, it can sound, I mean, very innocuous, very unimportant. But every time if somebody loses her keys to a cupboard, keys to the house, every time.
You mean lost forever or misplaced?
No, misplaced.
No, you misplaced.
चाबी कहाँ है?
Every time.
चाबी कहाँ? चश्मा कहाँ? इनका चश्मा नहीं मिलता और मेरी चाबी नहीं मिलती.
No, but it can be very inconvenient.
Okay. Do you have any fears? And if you have, what are your greatest fears?
I suppose in our world, people don't like to fail. I also won't like to fail.
Okay.
I don't want to lose whatever I have. Let me be honest. And I fear that I won't be able to get more. That's all.
Can I ask you one last question? Will you recite a few lines from any poem tonight?
I'll recite a very short poem. The title is Subha Ki Gori.
Okay.
रात की काली चादर ओढ़े मुंह को लपेटे रूठ के सबसे सोई है कब से सुबह की गोरी आंख न खोले मुंह से न बोले जब से किसी ने कर ली है सूरज की चोरी आओ चल के सूरज ढूंढे और न मिले तो किरण किरण फिर जमा करें हम और एक सूरज नया बनाएं रूठ के सबसे सोई है कब से सुबह की गोरी इसे जगाएं इसे मनाएं.
Just beautiful. You are so gifted. Both of you are so gifted. I hope the muse will never fail you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.